Hello everybody, welcome back to Sprueverse, my scale model universe, people of Earth. Welcome to part 2 of Build the Kronos One, the Polar Lights 1350 kit, the behemoth. And it's very exciting to be back in the 350 scale sprue world. It really warms my heart that this kit is so good. It's just fun to put together, and it's been a blast, and the detail on it is absolutely extraordinary. In part 1, as you may know, we went ahead and assembled the Cobra head, and everything went together quite well. A couple of things, obviously. If you are building this kit and you are using the Aztec dummy masks, you get masks for both sides of the louvers. These right here. You get both sides in, and you do inside and out. And you got to remember, before you put this top on and seal it up, to remove the inside masks. Very important. Because I didn't. I had to take it off. That's why I'm telling you. Now, you may be rolling your eyes and going, well, you know, I'm very sorry, but if you had an IQ that was larger than your shoe size, you would have known that. And that may be true. But we're all honest and fair around here, and I just wanted to share with you that I had made that goof. Okay, everything is together. All the lights are in, including a red nav light that belongs right here in this here. This was a little 3mm red bulb, and that comes with the Tenor Controls lighting kit. It does not have to be resisted. It's resisted on the board. If you have this kit and you're following along, or you're thinking about getting the lighting kit, again, follow the instructions. They're very simple. If you're confused about anything, do not hesitate to reach out to Ralph. Send him an email and say, I'm confused. He'll help you out. He's an awesome first-class human being, and his product is terrific. So go ahead and don't feel intimidated by it. The other thing, too, is I'm going to try desperately in this build to sort of show you the step-by-step of what we're doing to connect up this board. We've run all of the lights that we've needed to run based on the Tenor Controls callouts. And the only LED that needs resisting at the moment, according to the instructions, is the LED that belongs on the top of the tower. And the reason why they want a resistor on that is because it takes, well, it should take 12 volts to fire up those SMD strips. We're doing it with 9 volts, but we're doing it with a wall wart, so we're not using a battery. So we've got constant power at 2 amps coming in, and that should be enough to keep those SMD strips happy. But of course, because it's 9 volts and you need a clean 9 volts through those strips, you can't resist anywhere but at the end of the line. So all the power goes through, and it makes perfect sense that you'd need your LED bulb to be resisted down, because all LED bulbs that you'll get in this kit can only run at 3 volts. If you run anything more than 3 volts through them, you'll blow them. That's why there are resistors. But the wonderful thing about Ralph's board is when he says you don't need one, you don't need one. However, when you are testing your lights, you've got to make sure you've tagged everything. I've gone ahead and started labeling everything so I know what everything is. If I want to retest anything, I have to go ahead and make sure that if it's a if it's a bulb that's being resisted directly by the board, you got to head and use a little 3-volt battery so you don't screw yourself up and grown men can cry. I had a couple of emails about this sort of little refit that I did, the red clear part that comes with the lighting kit. Somebody said, oh, you've got that upside down. Nay, nay, it is not upside down. If you look at the lighting instructions, people, you'll see that they want you to clean that up because you need to do that in order to seal it if you're going to light it. Otherwise, you're going to get a light leak. And then I went ahead and put my, as you know, my masking fluid on it so we can go ahead and paint this, and it should look pretty good. The only piece of Photo-etch that we're going to be concerned with sooner than later is the photo etch for these windows right here. And we're going to be putting that on soonish, but we're going to work on the cells today. But that is the only piece that gets painted. Everything else is going to be left in the brass, which is genius. But I will say to you, if you're going to get the Polar Lights augmenting photo etch kit, you don't get that window part unless you get the lighting kit. It's the only way to get that piece. So just if you're going to go out and order that Polar Lights aftermarket kit and come back and say, well, where's my window part? You're not going to have it. You got to get, unfortunately, the lighting kit in order to get that part. It was not produced any other way. Now there may be other ways around that. But we're not dealing with those here. We're only dealing with what I have we're only dealing with what I have in front of me. Okay, so we're going to set the Cobra head aside, and we're going to concentrate on our nacelles. Now I'm going to do one nacelle because the other one is it's the same, so you don't need to see me build two. We're only going to build one, but we'll look at the components here. They're in front of me. You've got your two halves of the nacelle, and them's, those, is. And you've got your photo etch part, which I've removed, and that is here-ish. Okay, and that's part 31. Now, if you notice on here, there are two very distinct arrows. So they're showing you which way is up and which way is back. You gotta make sure you get that right. Now, kind of difficult to get it wrong because, fortunately, as luck would have it, in the kit part, there are locator pins, two wider and two smaller, so everything should match up. So if you take your time, follow the instructions, you shouldn't get lost. However, you know, sometimes these things can be they can be a little confusing, so just don't worry about it. Read the instructions carefully and you will be just fine. So now I've only cut off parts that I know I need to put inside. There's some clear parts for lighting, and there are everything else is a planton on the outside, so we don't have to worry about it. And the only other thing we will have to do is we're going to have to prime these and paint these in their base colors, because otherwise there's no way to mask off your filigree part. Now, well, let me check something. Hang on here. I could be lying to you, but I don't think I am. I just want to make sure. I'm going to look on the masking set real quick so that Lou doesn't yell at me. Let's see here. Just quickly looking to see if there is anything for the nacelles. Now, Lou prints on both sides of the picture. Now, you may think that that's not a significant thing, but it is for somebody who has a very fragile state of mind. I actually called him one day and said, Lou, I'm missing some of the instructions. He said, why don't you just turn the page over? I did, and there they were. What can I tell you? Deaf, dumb, and stupid. It's no way to go through life, but we're doing fine here at Spruverse. Don't panic. Okay, I'm quickly looking here, and I do not see anything to mask off that filigree. So, what I'm going to do is just be super careful. But we're going to have to pre-paint these, and there is a seam that we're going to have to deal with, but I think we'll be fine because once we get a coat of paint on these and we can get our final, I think we can actually get our final color on this, like our final color. and that we should be good to go, and then we can just put a piece of masking tape over it. If there's any uber detailing to do, I don't think it's going to be an issue to go ahead and do that, but that's what we're going to have to do. And it looks quite nice though when you put this all together. I'll show you this quickly. So you just want to drop this in here like this, and it does drop in nicely. And, it just makes a world of difference. Now I believe that let's see here, just double checking. No, it doesn't. Okay, well that's good to know. So the fine folks at Polar Lights did not give you the gold, didn't give it in the decal set. You know, we showed you the gold sheet. It's not on there. So unless you get the aftermarket Polar Lights, you're not going to be able to do this. But I think it's worth it. Oh my gosh, it's worth it. And the detail on this ship, it deserves this upgrade. It really does, guys. And I'm not paid to say that, but it deserves the upgrade. Okay, so basically, the only other thing we need to talk about quickly is there are some lights that need to go in here. There is a strobe that we have to put in here. Let me just get this out for a second and set this aside. Put this together, and we'll just quickly look at this. But there's a couple of things to pay attention to. Obviously, our green light, our green SMD strip, which comes in your lighting kit. Now, I may go with a cob light because I think I might get a more even distribution of light. I'll show you what that is if you don't know what cob lighting is. But there's the green SMD strip for the nacelle, the chiller grill, I'm assuming, and there is also let's see here. There's a nav light. So this is obviously the top, and this is the bottom. But there's a little running light right here. Let me show you that close up. There it is. There's a little running light, and I think that's a strobe that flashes. So we're going to have to pay attention to that. And that is yeah. So it's just a little 3mm, but it's going to flash. So and I'm pretty sure we've got a little clear part to put on there. If you don't want to use those clear parts that come with the kit for something like this, you can use some light curing resin, some clear light curing resin. There's two formulas. There's a dome forming one, and then there's just diamond clear. This is what that looks like. Okay, well, let's turn it that way so you can read it. How's that? And I get mine on Amazon, and that's what it is. Now, word of caution, this is not cheap. It's like 20 bucks, but it'll last you forever. So you'll only need to get it once, and you'll be glad you did, because I can't tell you how many domes I have created with this resin very successfully. It's very, very, very friendly to use. So anyway, that's something to think about. So I'm going to go ahead and get all my lights together, pull them together. I'm going to get a coat of paint on this. And then we'll start looking at assembling one of these and taking a look at what that looks like. I know I mentioned earlier that I would try to break down a little bit of the process of the lighting here. Now, this is not a lighting tutorial, but if I can be helpful, I'm happy to, and show you some of the things that I've learned and know. Obviously, I'm continuing to learn and grow, as we all do when we sit at our bench every day. That's part of the fun of this hobby. But for those of you who are new to lighting and want to jump in or are a little skittish, don't be skittish. I want to talk just briefly about LEDs. So let me show you here. Here is an LED. Okay. Now the LED, when it comes in your lighting kit, when you look at it, you're going to see that it's got if you notice, it's got one leg that is longer than the other leg, okay? So the longer leg is it's called an anode. That's your positive side. And the shorter leg is your cathode. That's your negative side. So your anode side is your positive and your cathode side is your negative. And as long as you remember that, you're going to be fine. Now, in order to test these lights, you can either get yourself a tester or a little 3-volt lithium battery is what I use. And you can go ahead and test your light and make sure it's working, and we know we're working. So that's good. So what we've got to do now is go ahead and we've got to connect a positive lead and a negative lead to this. And that's going to require some basic soldering skills, okay? So why don't we do a little bit of, we'll just do one of these quickly, just to show you how easy it actually is. Now remember, we are not resisting these. Usually, if you're just going to put lights in your model and you don't have a board, you're going to need resistors on these. They can only handle 3 volts. And you're probably either using a 9 or a 12 volt system, unless you've got a 3 volt system for something that's smaller, and that's perfectly fine. But I just want to caution those of you who are thinking about, dabbling in this, just to remember some of these basics. Okay, let me go ahead and show you how I actually wire up one of these. Let's do that quickly. Now, as I said earlier, your longer side is your anode side. So what I like to do is I like to trim these down a little bit because we don't need them this long. So I trim them down. But when you trim them down, don't trim them the same size. Always trim your positive side a little longer so you never lose where you are, okay? And then after you've done that, you're going to want to get yourself something like this. These are called helping hands. You can get them on Amazon. Your local hobby shop's going to have them. They're very, very useful. If you don't have any in your arsenal, I really suggest you get yourself some. Go ahead and put your LED in, and that will hold it for you. The next thing you're going to need is a little bit of flux. Now I use liquid flux. I put it in this old paint bottle because I use a lot of it. But this is a liquid flux. There's plenty of places online that sell liquid flux. I prefer it to the paste. I think you'll just do better with it. Go ahead and just touch your LED with your flux, okay? Then you're going to want to get yourself some leads, a positive and a negative lead. Get yourself some wire. And the wire you're going to use is, it's a 28 to 30 gauge wire, and you can get this from Evans. You can get this from HDA Model Works. There's all kinds of places you can get this wire. And you want to go ahead and get yourself some cutters, some wire cutters, and just trim off one of the ends. When you've trimmed off one of the ends, before you put it on here, what I like to do is get a little bit of shrink wrap tubing. And I cut it to size, and you can get shrink tubing, electrical shrink tubing on Amazon in a huge kit with all different kinds of sizes. Now quickly, I'm using a lot of different tools that you might not have in your arsenal, so don't roll your eyes and don't freak out. Just keep this video for down the road, and you might decide, well, later on I'm gonna try lighting, and you'll have this for reference. So then what I like to do is I like to give myself a little bit, and I wrap it around the lead like that. Now because that's got liquid flux on it already, I'm ready to go. So I heat up my iron, and I heat my iron up to 700 degrees, and I just touch it. That's all you need to do, is just touch it, and you're done. That is connected, and that's not going anywhere. And then after you've done that, you can slide up your heat shrink tubing and cover your connection. Why do we do that? Because we don't want any kind of shorting out. And if anything touches this, or these two can arc, meaning they might make a connection. They could short out. So you always want to make sure that you protect it. Now I use just a little bit of flame. It takes 1 second, and that is not going anywhere. Okay? We flip it over, and we do the other side. Now I touch this, so I'm going to just put a little bit more of the flux on it. I take my negative lead, and always leave yourself, cut your wires to the length that you know you're going to need to run them. Don't make them shorter. Wire is relatively cheap. Okay? And again, if you forget to put your shrink wrap on that end, don't worry, put it on the other end. Not a big deal. And you just get that ready to go. Okay? And again, all I'm going to do is touch this with just a little bit of solder. And that is done. I take it out. I put my tubing over it so both sides are covered like that. And then what you do is you just give a little heat to that side there, and that's done. Just squeeze those together so they're nice and tight. Now sometimes if you want to, you can get a wider piece of tubing, of shrink wrap, and you just put a little bit at the end here, and that'll hold those together if you want them to hold together, but it's not really necessary. And then you have a wired light, and we'll just get our trusted battery and test it, and there you go. Okay, and so that is how I put my LEDs together. And so I've got the two white LEDs that we're going to use for strobes, because there's this nacelle requires a nav light. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other one, and then I'll get my green strip light out, and we'll take a look at that. But before we assemble anything, as you know, we're going to have to prime and paint this piece. A quick lighting test of one of the nacelles. Let me just take you through what I've done. This is the green SMD strip. It's 12 volts, so it's pre-resisted, and it's going to draw direct current from the board, 9 volts. And I have removed the glue backing from it. And what I like to do after I've removed the glue backing from it is I like to go ahead and secure both ends with a little bit of hot glue. You can have whatever method you want, but what I found is if you don't do this, the glue for the sticky back glue tends to, over time, just get loose. And if this falls, you won't get your lighting effect anymore. It'll just look wonky. So I go ahead and I like to just add just a little bit of the hot glue just to make sure that that doesn't go anywhere. Now you'll notice here there's a gap, and that gap corresponds with a gap on the main body of the ship. So all wires are going to go through here. So they've already taken care of that for you. I also have a 3mm white SMD here, and this white SMD is actually going to go to the board, and it's going to be a flash. It's going to nav flash, and there's 2 of those, one in each nacelle. And the only other light is going to come in the form of this piece here. It has room for a 3mm, so we have to go ahead and glue that in. And what I'll do is I'll position it correctly, glue it into place, and make sure that it sits nicely before I go ahead and close it all up. But for the purposes of this demonstration, I just wanted to go ahead and show you how wonderful this grill effect is when you put it down. Now I'm not going to seal this yet. What I'm going to do is I am going to, once these lights are in, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mask this off. Now, obviously, I'm going to remove this. I'm not going to leave it on because I need to paint these. I need to get the base color on here, and that base color is going to need to get into all these nooks and crannies, and I'll never be able to do that again. It's going to be really difficult to accomplish that again if you try to glue this down before you've painted. Now, unfortunately, that will leave you a seam that you're going to have to deal with, but the good news is you'll have a nice clean effect around your nacelle. And so that takes care of one of the nacelles, and then there are some greeblies and some other things that have to go on it, but for the most part that takes care of it. Now, in terms of paint, I like, for something like this, I prefer something like a Stino-Res. Now, this is from a company called it's from Badger. It's ready to go, and it's nice and thin. But what I love about this Stino-Res is it really sucks into the plastic, and it is not going to diminish any of your detail. Sometimes on these kits, we know that some of the detail can be a little questionable, so you don't want to be using something like your Duplicolor gray primer filler. You don't want to do that. It's too thick, and you'll lose a lot of your details. You can use your Tamiya rattle can, but this tends to be a little less expensive and goes further, and I really like the way it actually adheres. And I like the color. This is the right base color for my ship. So I'm going to go ahead now and finish the other nacelle, get them all cleaned up, get my lights in, and we'll get a primer coat on this, and we're also going to get a primer coat on our cover head, and that'll take care of that, and then we can move on to the main body of the ship and see what needs to be wired there. And here are our nacelles, and they've been given a couple of coats of the Stino-Res, as we talked about. And then I've done a light dusting of a Vallejo lighter gray, just to give it a sort of a little dimensionality. There's a little speckledness you can see if you're in the studio. It'll help bring out some of the depth to it. But everything is ready to go. I've tested my lights and they're good. The most important thing about getting these sort of primed, as I mentioned earlier, was to get paint in this frame here, because now I can go ahead and actually tape that off, and I can finish these. The clear part goes on afterwards. That's an applique, and there are some other details, including some Photo-etch. But the most important thing was to get those taken care of. I've got out the main fuselage of our Kronos One just to sort of go through a couple of things and make sure that the plan in my head is the plan that I'm going to ultimately go with to get this put together and wired. So the two halves that you can see in front of me, they have a curious sort of fold over themselves kind of delivery system. If you can see, this is the bottom here, and this is the top, and there's a fold here that it just drops down over. Now this here is ultimately your center of the ship for its stand, and there's a rod that comes with it. I drilled out the hole here so that power could come up through here, as well as momentary switches that are going to fire off the Photon torpedoes, front and rear. And so that gives me that. But the purpose of doing this segment is I'm going to go ahead and obviously get some primer on it and clean it up. We can see our nacelles, where our nacelles are going to go together. So that's pretty good. We've got some pretty decent locator pins. There doesn't seem to be anything super problematic, so that's all good. Obviously, we've got our rear engines that have to be lit. So there's a a rear Photon torpedo, and then there's your left and right engines, and then there's obviously a piece that sits in this section here. So essentially, I need to run wires through the wings of the fuselage and into this cavity for my nacelles. So there's wire that needs to come through here, so I've got to get that all prepped. My board is going to sit in this cavity right here. And here's the board that comes with the Tenor Controls kit. And so the board is going to live here. It's going to live in this section like this. So all the wiring will be done here. The reason why I really love that is because this top section you can actually put some magnets on, and you can actually leave this section in situ. And what that allows you to do is it allows you to have access to the board if there's a problem. I really like that. So there's that. We've also got from the lighting kit. Now this comes with the lighting kit. If you don't have the lighting kit, you'll have a clear part, and you'll just need to hit it with some Tamiya clear, or AK makes a decent clear as well, and get this red. You'll want this to be red, but if you have the lighting kit, this will come with it. And this is the part that's going to sit behind here and allow you to get this wonderful diffusion in red, as you can see there. Now there is some SMD strip for this, but what we want to make sure is that we get enough diffusion on that. So we're going to have to sort of test that, so we don't have hot spots going across. We want just a nice warm glow. So that's where we're heading now. So this is all relatively simple. I've just got a little bit of cleanup to do on these parts, but for the most part, it's pretty straightforward. There isn't anything complicated. There's plenty of room for your wires. So it's just a function now of making sure that I have everything that comes into here. I have it accounted for, and there is an access port that they give you, and that's very good. Here is this access port here, and that's going to allow you to bring all your wires up into this cavity. So there's plenty of room here. They've really thought this through. And of course, this is where your lighting battery box is going to go if you're going with the standard Polar Lights aftermarket lighting kit. It will go in here as well. And so I've got just a little bit of building I have to do before I go ahead and get a coat of my Cyno-Res Gray primer on this. But that will essentially complete all of the main parts that will need to be assembled, and we can actually start focusing on making sure we get all our wiring in. Everything else is an applique that will go on afterwards. And then, of course, we've got our awesome Aztec dummy masking set that we'll be using to actually get this masked up and painted, which I'm always very excited about. There is a stand that I've been considering here. I went onto GameBody and I picked up this file for a Klingon cruiser. But what I really wanted was this base. I kind of liked it. And I don't know if I can actually use this base, only because what I'm not sure on is whether or not the weight distribution is going to be appropriate. Here is the post that comes with your standard round base that comes in the kit. And what I've done is I printed this centerpiece. I've printed that in resin. Everything else was in PLA just to give it some firmness. And the idea here is that this post drops in something like this. Yeah, so I want to go in straight like that. And then I'll epoxy that in basically like that. That'll all get epoxied in like that. And that should look pretty cool. So anyway, that's the concept for putting all of this together. It's a little early, but yes and no, you know, because I've got to make sure that everything is going to sort of come together when I'm ready to actually start the final assembly of this after painting. But I'm liking this concept only because I think this is really dramatic, and I think it's a far cry from this, which is your basic. Now that's taking nothing away from it. You can put your momentary switches on here, and it will be fine. The other advantage, of course, of these small little round bases is it is easier to find some shelf space for it. But I just think this is a little cooler. So we're going to see if we can make that work. Okay, onward. I'm going to clean up the main fuselage, and we'll start looking at what parts have to be added to this before I get a coat of primer on it. Nice little bit of design on the side of the nacelle. You've got to put these louvers in, and they sit on top of each other. It's not clear on your instructions here that they actually louver, but yeah, it's a nice little detail. The other thing is you've got this ugly seam, but the way I'm going to fix that is I'm going to mix myself up some slick tulip, a gray version of it. I can mix up, and I'm doing very well with it. It seems to be filling in these seams quite nicely, and it'll avoid sanding. It's drying quite nicely, and so I'm having some good results with that. So that's pretty good. I've just got one more little piece here to add, and these will be ready for painting. Obviously, I'm going to mask this off, and we'll protect our detail there, but everything else can be masked off and ready to go. So yeah, this is a result. I mean, I think these nacelles, they're an awful lot of fun, and I'm really loving all of the detail. There's so much detail on here. It's really a pleasure to put together. I mean, some of the seams just don't work, but you know, you can expect that sometimes. Unfortunately, you can do all you can do, but I find sometimes what happens is during the molding or the printing process, you get this artifact in which the something shifts. It's plastic, right? And it shifts, and as it shifts, you get this sort of this shifting artifact is what I call it, and so your locator pins, they'll be off by just a millimeter. So you've got two choices. You can either remove your locator pins, which I do an awful lot of. If you're building the 1350 refit, there's an awful lot of those locator pins, guys. You just got to get rid of them. You just got to completely cut them off and move on. Now, I did not use the clear part on these nav flashlights. I'm going to use a little bit of light curing doming resin. I'm just going to drop just a little dab in there, and that'll do fine, and they'll look really good. You could also use microcrystal clear, is another way to go. But yeah, they'll work really well. One of the only ways, well, not one of the only ways, it's probably the easiest way to figure out how many days I'm actually working on a model is to see how many shirt changes there are. You count the shirt changes, and you could usually pretty be sure that I was filming for an entire day, and how much I got done. It's a pro tip for you. The other pro tip is you're going to be doing a lot of test fitting for your main fuselage, a lot of test fitting. And so one of the things that I recommend you have or get yourself is something like this. I have this version of it, and this one's called the Wave H2 196, and you can get yours mostly for Gundam. What it's used for is for prying parts of Gundam parts apart, because the engineering on those is so good that it can be really difficult to get them apart, and you don't want to use anything sharp. You want to use something that is designed for it. And I've been using it on this because the fit on this is very good, and you do need to make absolutely sure which parts have to be attached because they go on the inside of this model, and which parts can actually be appliques that go on the outside. I think I've got that pretty much dialed in now. And the other thing is obviously I need to start thinking about getting my my nacelles on, because I need to start running wire. So we're at a juncture now where things have to start coming together, which is a good thing. And what I've determined is that the only parts that actually need to be attached first are these side panels, which go on the underneath of the wing, which is a good thing, because once those are on, I can start concentrating on everything else. I've been playing with color as well, trying to figure out how dark or how light. I keep changing my mind. Now I've gone too light. I need to go a little darker. So I'm just going to be doing a light dusting of my dark gray to get the finish. But I like the sort of the two-tone effect of the grays before I start adding any more color on it. There'll be washes as well, of course, but it is fun to play with color, and so that's what I've been doing. And to my eye, I was a little too dark. Now I'm a little too light, but that's okay, because I've still got a little bit of work to do on some of these seams for my nacelles before they actually get attached to here. So the next step for me is to attach these side panels and get this primed up, and then we'll be ready to start talking about next steps, which is wiring. I've also got a little further on the base I think I'm going to use, and I'll share that with you in just a minute. Newsflash, I've made a mistake, and unfortunately I can't correct it, but I can correct it for the rear torpedo launcher. So in Ralph's kit, you have a very clever setup where you can go from red to amber on your Photon torpedoes. It's a very clever effect, and so in the instructions, you can see very clearly that he wants you to put the flat amber light behind the other light, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a second, so that you get a double effect. You get a fade down, then you get a pulse, and it does actually work. I failed to follow these instructions for the front firing torpedo. So tragically, I won't have the benefit of that effect. But hopefully, if you're watching this video and you weren't clear yourself, then you won't make the mistake that I made. Now, having said that, I am notorious for lighting my kits, putting them on display, and never turning the lights on again. I know. Now, that's not an excuse. We've got to do this right, and we've got to correct this for the rear, so it's a good exercise for me anyway. As I've always said, I come to the bench every day hoping to learn something, and I do mean that. I do hope to learn something and improve my modeling skills. I don't claim to be a master modeler, and I don't claim to be a teacher, but I hope together we can enjoy this hobby and together figure things out. So anyway, so the idea here is what you're supposed to do is take your red light, and here's mine in, and I'm using a 5. He actually calls for a 3, but I'm going to use the 5 because I like the potency of it. And there's them zizzes. And the idea is that you take your flat amber, and it's placed behind here like such and such. Now let me see if I can get this to work. I think I can. Yeah, so you can see here that placed behind that light you get the effect. So it's a double whammy. It's very clever. But what that means is that you have to actually connect these together as one and follow the instructions. It is clear on the instructions how they actually connect. So I'm going to go ahead and connect one of these, and we'll show you what that looks like in just a second. And then we can go ahead and continue to build. I've got my impulse engines, my reds, ready to go, and they fit perfectly. This has not been primed yet, but I'm going to get ready to do that. We're going to prime the we're going to finally prime this fuselage and start to do some very needed construction here, because wiring has to come through to the board, which means we have to start testing the board, which means I've got to fire the board up. Lots to do, but I thought it was important that we stop and talk about this. So let me show you this built. And here is the completed piece with both bulbs, as you can see. The front bulb, I've used a 5mm red. The rear bulb is an amber, but they absolutely work perfectly. I've got a lovely little clip here which I pick up from Evan's design. That will sit on it like that, and the whole thing will attach to the back, and we are good to go. And that completes the correct way to build the Tenor Controls Photon torpedo. And we should have done that for the front. We didn't. We failed miserably. Ralph, I apologize. But we've done it for the rear, and we have a very clear way forward. And the instructions are absolutely clear. You just have to make an effort to read them. Now, the other thing I've done, which is an interesting thing you may want to think about, I have problems sometimes remembering things. I'm very visual. I need to look at diagrams. That helps me. I don't know how you guys are. You know, some people are left brain, some are right, and some are neither. And bless you all. But on his instructions, on Ralph's instructions here, you'll notice that he calls for one side, one of the positives. Now all of Ralph's effects go to the negative. He uses the black side of his systems for the most part for his effects, not the positive side. But if you'll notice, the call out is red to the red connector on 3, and purple and the other red to the purple connector on 3. So that I don't confuse myself, I've actually used a red and purple wire just to keep everything straight, and that'll keep me on the from having to worry about where things go. And you might want to consider that for the rest of your connections. You can do positive and negative so you know which is which coming out of your individual LEDs. But if you can color code your wires going into your board, it may be helpful to you. It might not. Okay, success. We're good. We're moving on. I'm going to go ahead now and get back to regularly scheduled programming, which is to actually get a coat of primer on my fuselage, and let's start looking at wiring. I found some files on GameBuddy for a Klingon warship, and I really liked the base. So I downloaded the files. It was $20 for the files, but it included this base. And what I'm liking is this base. I'm liking this base a lot more than the round base that came with the kit. So there it is in full view, and you can see that it's going to be. I think it's going to be quite substantial. Now it does add some challenges for me that we're going to have to deal with, and one of those challenges, of course, is there's nowhere for me to put my momentary switches. So I'm going to be looking at a couple of options. One of the options that I'm looking at is the Cosmic Scale Models base. Now they're basically acrylic boxes that you can put any anything you choose on top. Keith over there has all kinds of options for you. Lost in Space. It doesn't matter what it is. He can either make it for you, or if you know, as a special request. But the boxes are only medium. They're small or medium. They don't come in a larger profile, and it does mean that the wings on my Klingon base will sort of bubble over a little bit, but I don't think it doesn't bother me. We'll take a look at that in the next segment, because I'm going to put one together and show you. But more importantly, I like the way it presents on here. Now, I haven't got this in the correct position yet, but there's no issue with this tumbling over. It's absolutely fine. It's actually a bummer that you have to do anything to it. Now, you could arguably try to light this in some other fashion. You could run power directly into this, I suppose, underneath, and just have it drop out. But you still don't have anywhere for your momentary switches, so I'm sort of stuck there. My light board will go in the top here, and I'll show you the board. Here's the board, and it's gonna very nicely live in that space, and all the wires will come to it. So it's the wires from the from my nacelles, some nav lights and some other things, and then of course everything coming in from the neck, and it's all going to live here, and I like that. So it's very clean and it's very simple. And the other option, well, the thing that's really nice about that too is that the way this was designed, if you wanted to, you're not put in a situation where you are going to end up stuck. You can actually access the board on this model, because it was designed so that the lighting kit battery would actually be accessed. So it turns out to be a very positive. Okay, so we've made quite a bit of progress. What I'd like to do now is I'd like to make one other decision. If you notice here, if I turn this here, and then I just tip this, well, there, I don't even need to tip it. I wanted to show you this. So all these windows, they're asking you to black them out. Well, you know, they can be lit, and there is a way to do that. So I'm thinking of adding some light in here, just to create just to create a little more drama. This is the front of the ship, and I think you would see these lit. Now, curiously enough, when I lift up the top here, what you notice immediately is you will get access to these little side panels, but they are actually blacked out. If you want to light these, we just have to clean them up and drill them out. And I think I'm going to do that and add some light. Why not? I don't think it's going to hurt anything. And then underneath, you can see I've got my red light for the nav underneath, and I've got these two white lights that also drop in, and the board does give you enough room to light all of that. So all that has to happen now is I just have to neatly bring over my nacelle lights here. I need to add some wire to them, because everything is going to come up through this hole here to where the board is. I'm going to extend my wires and clean those up for my nacelles, and then I'm going to add just a little bit of light to this to the left and right of the neck where there are windows. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of light, because I just want to. I think it's worth it, and we certainly can. Doing a little bit of fiddly stuff, and thought I would force you to watch. Now, I'm just cleaning up some loose ends here. I'm working on the impulse engines, and the covers for the engines themselves come in two pieces. and you have to glue those pieces together. And I've learned over the years that if you can sub-assemble and use the actual locator pin holes as a jig, you're going to get a better fit. Let me show you what I mean. So this is this is the piece in question here, and here are our parts. And what you have to do is you have to get the top parts in situ like this, and then you have to drop the other part over it like this. These are the biggest locator pins I've ever seen in my life, but there you go. And you know, if you've got calm hands, you're going to be a lot better off than me. I don't have calm hands, so excuse the fight, but it'll drop in, and there it is. And you can feel it seat, and that's what you get. And then what we're going to do is just to the back of this, just tip this over and just gingerly just add some glue to that. And what you'll discover is that this will bite, and you'll end up, this is the other one, and you'll end up with this. Now the good news about that is you can see through the white light there. You can see a little bit of gappage. So I got to clean that up. Now, what I like to do is use a little light curing putty. Frozen makes a gel version that works in there quite beautifully. And I find it a lot easier to work with in little tiny places like this than regular putty. But if you've got regular putty, you can use that. If you want to use a little bit of super glue and use some gap filling, you can do that as well. But you got to fill that before we carry on, otherwise you're going to have a light leak. So that is what I am doing, and then I'm going to be ready to actually paint these up, because they're a slightly different color than the fascia body, and this hasn't got its final color yet. I'm still working on what that gray is. I keep going lighter, I keep going darker. I'll get there. I'm just having to be very careful that I don't put too much paint on some of these details and ruin them. But we're dusting everything, and I like the sort of the dusting effect on this ship. I think rather than just flat coats of paint, I think you get a better result. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and take care of these little light leaks. Oh, you can also use black tulip, by the way, if you want to. That works too. Just go ahead and paint that in. It'll take a little longer to dry, but it works quite effectively. And you know, in something like this, when you do want it to actually recess into the creases, that might not be a bad idea either. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and clean all this up, and then I will start putting a little bit of paint on this because these details are going to need it. And then I don't have to, I can actually attach these in final assembly. I do have some clear parts. I'll show you those quickly. I like this little piece of clear that came with the kit because it's on the filming miniature. That effect, I think they use some kind of metallic grid, I don't know, but this definitely does that. And then you've got this clear red part that came with your lighting kit. And the object of the exercise is that what you want to do is you actually want to drop this red part in first, and it will sort of drop in sort of below like that, and then your clear part will actually sit on top of that, and that forms that sort of, now it gives you a little more diffusion, and it's not going to be so saucy, and it also gives you that red light. Now, could you also paint these with clear? Absolutely. You could do that as well. But I think that doing it this way, you just add another level of diffusion to what you're working on. And I like that better. Also, because this has got all these little corrugations on it, you're going to need to, you can't paint that clear on. You're going to have to put it in an airbrush and dust it several times. It would absolutely work brilliantly, but I've got these little red parts and I'm going to use them. Now, there is openings that have been created for you in the kit for these little boxes that go on the side of your shuttle bay. I will probably pre-assemble this piece here. Essentially, you're creating these little boxes, and what you're going to do is essentially you're going to sort of build the box. And when you build the box, what you realize is that, and this sort of sits on here kind of like thisage, and then this just sits on the side here. Now all of this is very precarious because none of it is attached, but it looks like that. So you've got your red glow coming out of here, and then out of the rear you have got, or you're going to have, this shuttle bay. Now, this shuttle bay is an opportunity waiting to happen. Now, I do know that you can get an aftermarket shuttle bay for this. I know Green Strawberry has one, and perhaps Paul over at Paragraphics has one. Check their websites and find out. They're both very helpful. And I'm sure if you want to go ahead and cut into this and put a shuttle bay in there, awesome. I mean, it's a really good opportunity, and it's a nice size, and there's plenty of room for it. So anyway, I digress. But this goes on the back here, like thisage, and it forms the back of your little box like that. Okay, so you've got white lights for these rear lights. You've got statics for these little 3 mils here, and you've got SMD strips, which means that you can either put your clear part in here, this little hole right here, or you can go ahead and do what I'm going to do, which is I'm going to use a little fiber optic and bring that down to a 3 mil. There's plenty of room in there, and I'll show you when I do that. I'm not going into a lot of detail about fiber optics on this build, but you'll see the mechanics of it. But the reason why I'm doing that is twofold. I can actually extend my my fiber optic out of the hole, which means that I can go ahead and paint to my heart's content and then just snip it when I'm finished, and I've got a nice clear lens. And it's easy because the folks at Polar Lights were kind enough to allow us access to these boxes. And here's those hole is. So you don't have to do any drilling. They thought about it for you. Very nice and very cool. So anyway, I have to go ahead now and do my pre-assemblies and get everything wired up and checked. And then once I have done that, we'll show you that. I'll look at that. And then we can actually bring the ship over and start to look at the board, because that's sort of the bulk of everything then. Everything is sort of basically ready to go. And we've got plenty to do, but I think that will be a nice place to end this up to part 2 build update on the Kronos One. So let me go ahead and just pull out all of my my wiring and start to sub-assembly this and see where we are. Now, word of caution, of course, very difficult to mask this piece here. Very difficult. So if you've got any sub-assembly painting you want to do, now's the time to do it before you commit to putting this light box behind here, because once you do, you know, all you can do is cover the grate. There's nothing else you can do once you've obviously put this all together. So you need that's just something you want to be mindful of as you move forward. Well, we finally come to that moment in time where we have to start thinking about a couple of things. One, we've got to do all this wire tidy. All this needs to be cleaned up, and we have to make sure that we're not lost in terms of labeling things. Where I could, I've color coordinated my connections so I can go straight to the connection. In other words, if it says the black side of an SND strip needs to go to connector white 1, I'm just making that black end white, and I know it goes to white 1. If it needs to go to white 2, then I would just label that 1, 2, 3 like that, and that just helps speed things up and keep things organized. So a couple of things to look at here. You can see I've got to clean up all of these wires, but everything is in. The nacelle wires are coming across nicely, and I've cleaned those up on both sides. So that is good to go. But the next thing that has to happen is everything has to be fed into this top piece, because this is where all of the action is going to happen. Once this drops in here, my board is going to live in here. This is where my board's going to live. And what I love about this is this top is completely removable. So I'm not in trouble if there's a problem. Now I'm in trouble if there's a short anywhere, but I've triple checked all of my wiring. But you know, that's the life of someone who wants to wire a model. Sometimes you get unlucky, but I think I've been pretty good about keeping everything clean. The one mistake that I've made again is in the front Photon torpedo. Unfortunately, I've wired it incorrectly, and I've wired the rear one correctly. There's a 3 or a 5. I've been using 5mm red with a 3mm flat top amber, and that goes behind it. And the idea is that it can adjust from color to color based on what you do. Unfortunately, I only put in the red to the front. I wasn't thinking. I made a mistake. Don't you make the same mistake. Double check, read your instructions. Okay, so again, as you can see, the board fits in here absolutely perfectly, and all my connections go to it. And so what I have to do now is I have to clean up this bottom mess, get this on. I'm not going to lock it down yet, but I'm going to get it on. And I have to just make sure everything is checked. I am loving this base. I think this is the right way to go. I just put some color on it just to see what it would look like, but I love it. I think it fits beautifully, and it's a shame that Polar Lights couldn't come up with something like that. You know, it just really makes the model, I think, to give it a base that keeps it within the emblem of its world. Okay, so that is where we're going to end the part 2 update. When we come back for part 3, we will be going into final check of the lighting mode. Everything, I'll connect everything up. I'm going to follow along, and I will put a little bit of that on camera, but you just follow along with these instructions and you won't go wrong. They're quite simple if you follow them. We'll paint, and we'll also see if in that next update we can get this finished. I don't know. It might be 4 parts because the Photo-etch is really tricky. There's a lot of it. It's beautiful. There's a lot of it, and we've got decals as well. So perhaps part 3 will probably just be painting and getting it ready for decals and also for your Photo-etch. The nice thing about the Photo-etch is it stays in the brass. So you get all of your painting done first, and it's really the last thing to go on. That's pretty cool. Okay, so I'm going to cool it. I'm going to definitely cool it. I'm going to call this one Part 2. Most likely it'll be a 4-part build. I hope you're enjoying it. Hey, if you'd like to get a hold of me, I'm spruverse@gmail.com, and I'm trying desperately to post most days by in the weeds photos of what's on the bench. You can buy me a cup of coffee for my charitable builds. That link's on my channel page, along with a link to the World of Wayne merch page, where all the Spruverse merch is, and 100% of those proceeds do go to charity. So please pick yourself up a shirt. You'll be glad you did. But hey, as always, thank you for joining me on this incredible Star Trek journey. I wish all of you, please, be safe and be well. Build something! And I'll see you next time. Take care, everybody. Be well.